Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupada Paramhamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtadharabhava Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupada Paramhamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtadharabhava Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamunamai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nugovardhan Dham Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so 9th canto, titled Liberation, chapter 21, the dynasty of Bharat, and we'll be starting with texts 19 and 20. So we'll be reading quite a few verses. So if you'd like to read along, you're welcome to. We're starting with 26. Is that it? Okay, 26. Well, this is of the next chapter. So, Jagishavyopadeshena yogatantram chakaraha udapshenas tatastasmad balato barhadishvaha. Following the instructions of the great sage Jagishavya, Vishvaksena compiled an elaborate description of the mystic yoga system. From Vishvaksena, Udaksena was born, and from Udaksena, Balata. All these sons were known as descendants of Brihadishu. The son of Dvimida was Yavinara, whose son was Kritiman. The son of Kritiman was well known as Satyadriti. From Satyadriti came a son named Dhritanemi, who became the father of Suparshva. From Suparshva came a son named Sumati. From Sumati came Sanitiman, and from Sanitiman came Kriti, who achieved mystic power from Brahma and taught 6 samhitas of the Prachyasama, verses of the Sama Veda. The son of Kriti was Nipa. The son of Nipa, Udgrayuda. The son of Udgrayuda, Chemya. The son of Chemya, Suvira. And the son of Suvira, Nipunjaya. From Ripunjaya came a son named Bahurata. Puramida was sonless. Ajimida had a son named Nila by his wife known as Nalina, and the son of Nila was Shanta. Sankarshan, do you think you could give a mic over here to them? There's one mic there, one mic there. I think there's 3 mics, right? Or not, just 2 mics? Okay. Maybe we could get another mic. Oh, there's another mic there too, okay. Well, maybe we get one more. Would you like to read 5 verses and you read 5 verses? Just the English.
Did you read 30?
Yeah.
Okay, the son of Shanti was Sushanti, the son of Sushanti was Puruja, and the son of Puruja was Arka. From Arka came Parmyashva, and from Parmyashva came 5 sons, Mudgala, Yavinara, Brihadvishva, Kampila, and Sanjaya. Parmyashva prayed to his sons, "O my sons, please take charge of my 5 states, for you are quite competent to do so." Thus his 5 sons were known as the Panchalas. From Mudgala came a dynasty of Brahmanas known as Mudgalya. Mudgala, the son of Parmyashva, had twin children, one male and the other female. The male child was named Divodas, and the female child was named Ahalya. From the womb of Ahalya, by the semen of her husband Gautama, came a son named Shatananda. The son of Shatananda was Satyadriti, who was expert in archery, and the son of Satyadriti was Sharadvan. When Sharadvan met Urdvasi, he discharged semen, which fell on a clump of shata grass. From this semen were born 2 all-auspicious babies, one male and the other female.
While Maharaj Shantanu was on hunting excursion, he saw the male and female children lying in the forest, and out of compassion he took them home. Consequently, the male child was known as Kripa, and the female child was named Kripi. Kripi later became the wife of Dronacharya. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of 9th canto, 21st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Dynasty of Bharata.
So because we're reading a lot, we could read this tomorrow, this chapter summary, if the speaker likes. You want to go to 1?
Yeah. Shukdev Goswami said, "O king, the son of Divodasha was Maitreyu, and from Maitreyu came 4 sons named Chayavana, Shudasha, Shahadeva, and Somaka. Somaka was the father of Jantu. Somaka had 100 sons, of whom the youngest was Prashta. From Prashata was born King Drupad, who was opulent in all supremacy. From Maharaj Drupad, Draupadi was born. Maharaj Drupad also had many sons, headed by Drishtadyumna. From Drishtadyumna came a son named Drishtaketu. All these personalities are known as descendants of Bharamyashva, or the dynasty of Panchala.
would you like to, did you read 5 verses?
Another son of Ajamedha was known as Raksha. From Raksha came a son named Samvarana, and from Samvarana through the womb of his wife Tapati, the daughter of the sun god, came Kuru, the king of Kurukshetra. Kuru had 4 sons, Parikshi, Sudhanu, Janu and Nishada. From Sudhanu, Suhotra was born. From Suhotra, Chavan. From Chavan, Kriti was born. The son of Kriti was Uparichara Vasu, and among his sons headed by Brihadratha were Kushamba, Matsya, Pratyagra and Chedipa. All the sons of Uparichara Vasu became rulers of the Chedi state. From Brihadratha, Kushagra was born. From Kushagra, Rishab, and from Rishab, Satyahita. The son of Satyahita was Pushpavan, and the son of Pushpavan was Jahu. Through the womb of another wife, Brihadrita begot 2 halves of a son. When the mother saw these 2 halves, she rejected them. But later, a she-demon named Jara playfully joined them and said, "Come to life, come to life." Thus the son named Jarasandha was born.
Srimad Prabhu, would you like to read 5 verses? Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes. From Surata came a son named Vidurata, from whom Sarvabhauma was born. From Sarvabhauma came Jayasen, from Jayasen Radhika, that's male, and from Radhika Ayutayu. From Ayutayu came a son named Akrodhana, and his son was named Devatiti. The son of Devatiti was Riksha. The son of Riksha was Dilipa, and the son of Dilipa was Pratipa. Text 12 and 13. The sons of Pratipa were Devapi, Shantanu, and Balika. Devapi left the kingdom of his father and went to the forest, and therefore Shantanu became the king. Shantanu, who in his previous birth was known as Mahabhisha, had the ability to transform anyone from old age to youth simply by touching that person with his hands. Maybe 4, but I'll go into 6 if I read these 2.
Would you like to read up till 20? Or up till, finish in 19?
Okay. Because the king was able to make everyone happy for sense gratification, primarily by the touch of his hand, his name was Shantanu. Once, when there was no rainfall in the kingdom for 12 years, and the king consulted his learned Brahminical advisors, they said, you are faulty for enjoying the property of your elder brother. For the elevation of your kingdom and home, you should return the kingdom to him. When the Brahmins said this, Maharaj Shantanu went to the forest and requested his elder brother Devapi to take charge of the kingdom, for it is the duty of a king to maintain his subjects. Previously, however, Shantanu's minister, Ashavara, had instigated some Brahmins to induce Devapi to transgress the injunctions of the Vedas and thus make himself unfit for the post of ruler. The Brahmins deviated Devapi from the path of the Vedic principles, and therefore when asked by Shantanu, he did not agree to accept the post of ruler. On the contrary, he blasphemed the Vedic principles and therefore became fallen. Under the circumstances, Shantanu again became the king, and Indra, being pleased, showered rains. Devapi later took to the path of mystic yoga to control his mind and senses and went to the village named Kalapagram, where he is still living. How far am I going?
Just one more.
Okay. Well, there's 2 verses together. Yeah. 2.
2 and 1.
He was asking me how many baritas. I said 2. It's Krishna's arrangement. After the dynasty of the moon god comes to an end in this age of Kali, Devapi, in the beginning of the next Satya Yuga, will reestablish the Soma dynasty in this world. From Balika, the brother of Shantanu, came a son named Somadatta, who had 3 sons named Buri, Shriva, and Shala. From Shantanu, through the womb of his wife named Ganga, came Bhishma, the exalted, self-realized devotee and learned scholar.
Bhīṣmadeva ki jai.
Okay.
Well, so by the mercy of Krishna, we should be entering the 10th canto in this month. So that's, yeah. Right. So please repeat after me. Vira Yutangranir Yena Ramo Pi Yudi Toshitaha Shantanur Dasa Kanyayam Jagye Chitrangada Sutaha Vira Yutangra Niryena Ramopi Yudito Shitaha Shantanur Dasa Kanyayam Jagye Chitrangada Sutaha Vira Yutangra Niryena Ramopi Yudito Shitaha Shantanur Dasa Kanyayam Chukye Chitrangada Sutaha Vira Yutangra Niryena Ramopi Yudito Shitaha Shantanur Dasa Kanyayam Chagye Chitrangada Sutaha. All right. Any online?
Virayutha grahineyena Ramopi yuditoshitaha Santano darsakanyayam Jagne chitra gadaha sutaha.
All right. Virya Yuta Angrani. Bhīṣmadeva, the foremost of all warriors. Yena, by whom? Rama Api, even Paraśurāma, the incarnation of God. Yudi, in a fight. Toshitaha, was satisfied when defeated by Bhīṣmadeva. Shantanu Vaishantanu Dasa Kanyayam in the womb of Satyavati, who was known as the daughter of a Shudra. Jagye was born. Chitrangadaha, Chitrangada, Sutaha, a son. Translation: Bhīṣmadeva was the foremost of all warriors. When he defeated Lord Paraśurāma in a fight, Lord Paraśurāma was very satisfied with him. By the semen of Shantanu in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of a fisherman, Chitrangada took birth. Purport: Satyavati was actually the daughter of Upadicharavasu by the womb of a fisherman known as Matsyagarbha. Later, Satyavati was raised by a fisherman. Oh, all right, let's rewind. Satyavati was actually the daughter of Upadicharavasu by the womb of a fisherwoman known as Matsyagarbha. Later, Satyavati was raised by a fisherman. The fight between Paraśurāma and Bhīṣmadeva concerns three daughters of Kashiraj, Ambika, Ambalika, and Amba, who were forcibly abducted by Bhīṣmadeva, acting on behalf of his brother, Vichityavirya. Amba thought that Bhīṣmadeva would marry her and become attached to him. But Bhīṣmadeva refused to marry her, for he had taken the vow of brahmacharya. Amba therefore approached Bhīṣmadeva's military spiritual master, Paraśurāma, who instructed Bhīṣma to marry her. Bhīṣmadeva refused, and therefore Paraśurāma fought him to force him to accept the marriage. But Paraśurāma was defeated, and he was pleased with Bhīṣma. Om Jnanati Padandasya Gananjana Shalakya Chakshulan Maditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Karidavachalam Pangam Langai Tegari Mekripatam Mahambande Shri Gurundani Tadanam Bancha Kabadra Bishta Kripasanaveva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhadityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, so today's verse once again. Bhīṣmadeva was the foremost of all warriors. When he defeated Lord Paraśurāma in a fight, Lord Paraśurāma was very satisfied with him. By the semen of Shantanu in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of a fisherman, Chitrangada took birth. Yeah, so like I said just a couple minutes ago, that we will be entering the 10th canto very soon. By the end of the month, that's what the schedule's looking like. So it's it's an amazing time. The 10th canto is quite vast. There's a lot of cantos, and there's a lot of parts to the canto, and it's all about Krishna. They say that the 10th canto is compared to be like the smiling face of Krishna. The first canto being like his feet. So Prabhupada would say you shouldn't jump to the 10th canto. And we haven't done that. We've been steadily going through. So, but those who maybe haven't been steadily going through the whole 10th canto, you have arrived. You might have just joined yesterday or whatever, but we'll be in the 10th canto. So when I first joined the temple here, we were in the 10th canto. I forgot what part, but so you can see how long it takes to go through. It's quite a process. Well, that was 20 years ago, about 20 years ago, so it takes a while to go through. In this way, class format. Shouldn't take that long to read on oneself, but yeah. So here in this chapter we're hearing about the descendants of Ajamida, and in general there's a lot of description of the different dynasties leading up to the parents of Krishna. So we're hearing about this morning some great personalities. Of course, when we look at all of these names, we may not know a lot of these different people. There may not be descriptions of these personalities. Just like we hear Lord Chaitanya's associates, sometimes there's not much description of them, of what they did, of who they were, and so on. But nonetheless, they're important personalities, and it's something to think about from our perspective, that all of these personalities had a life, had desires, probably a lot of them were married and had children, this and that. We're hearing about all these dynasties. But then at one particular point, they become a name in history who people may not know much about, or maybe not even know anything about. Of course, these names being the Bhagavatam, they're special personalities. But still, if we think about it from our perspective, you could think about your grandparents. You may know something about your grandparents, but then what about your great-grandparents? And what about the great-great-great-grandparents? How much do we know? We'd be hard-pressed even to tell their name. What to speak of being a name in history, we may not even remember the name. So it points at the shortness of one's life, and how therefore Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas are trying to encourage us through their teachings to try to do something valuable for one's own self. After all, there's some self-interest for one's own self and also for the benefit of others. So yes, we're hearing about these different names and different great personalities. And in a sense, at least this particular section is starting with Satyavati, who was a humble girl, the daughter of a fisher couple. Very humble situation, not seen to be a glorious birth, to be a daughter of a fisher couple. So, and while she was before her marriage to Shantanu, before her marriage to him, she was encountered by Parsha Muni, and they were on a boat together, and he became attracted to her, and what's the word? Huh? Had union, okay, Dharmaraj. Together. And this was unconventional, very unconventional, in that there was no marriage ceremony, there was not anything like that. But from that connection between each other, a glorious son appeared, and that was Srila Vyasadeva, who is the right author of the compiler author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we see that sometimes there may be great personalities appearing in families or appearing in situations that are not conventional, or from lower families, so on. So yeah, that was the particular case in this regard. So, and because she was a fisher woman, that's what she was doing. She was like a boat woman, taking people across the Yamuna and so on. She naturally, the scent of her body was not very pleasing. It's like, fishy smell. So Parashara Muni, he gave her the benediction that she would have a very nice scent after that, all the time. It was something, I forgot, Yojana Ganda, which means her pleasing scent would be picked up from a very long distance. And he was also given her the blessing that that she would be able to be married later, even though she had connection with him. Usually that's not the case, but there's some benediction like that. So she continues in her life, and at one particular point, Shantanu Maharaj sees her, and he becomes attracted. One of the things he becomes attracted is by the scent. Right? Yojana Ganda, it's like very beautiful. So he becomes attracted. And at that particular point, Shantanu Maharaj already had a wife, Ganga, the personification of Ganga, right? Ganga Devi. So he had a wife already, and with that wife he had Bhīṣmadeva, a powerful warrior, Bhīṣmadeva, with Ganga. So the father of Satyavati, he wasn't so into the idea of her marrying Shantanu Maharaj, because he was thinking that Bhīṣmadeva's the elder son, and as soon as this king is gone, then Bhīṣmadeva's going to take the throne. So I don't want that. I want my sons to take the throne. So he wasn't so into that idea. Satyavati's father. So then at that particular point, Bhīṣmadeva and his father really wanted to be with Satyavati. He was very enchanted by her. So at that particular point, Bhīṣmadeva, he said, I'll make a vow that I will be a brahmachari my whole life. I will not marry, and therefore will not have children, and therefore my children will not take the throne. I make that vow. It says all the gods were, because it's said to be a terrible vow, like Bhishma, a very intense vow. So those who think it's a light vow, you have to think again. Right? Sometimes you have that experience. Somebody joins, they've been around for a week, and they say, my whole life I'll be a brahmachari. It's not so. It's a very intense vow. So Bhīṣmadeva made that vow for the pleasure of his father, which is a big sacrifice. It's not that he was going to inherit like a 7-Eleven or something, but he was going to become king. He was going to become the king. And from that, he was going to have a wife or so many wives and so much opulence. So he just rejected that. He gave it up. This is a real Goswami, Bhīṣmadeva, just completely renounced it. And therefore he got, because before his name was Devavrata, so therefore he got the name Bhishma, which means terrible vow. So Bhishma, that was his glory. So then Satyavati, she married Shantanu Maharaj, and from their marriage came Chitrangada and also Vichitravira. They had 2 sons. And Chitrangada, he died early, so there was no question of having sons. He died early. And then Vichitravirya was there. He was left. And Vichitravirya, he needed to get married. So then what happened was Bhīṣmadeva, he went to this is like an old tradition, Kshatriya type of tradition, but they went to this place where the ceremony was taking place, and pretty much they were competing to see who was the strongest of them all, to see who would win the favor of the women looking to get married. I mean, we kind of have that going on in modern day. It's just a bit of a different style. It goes on still. But so Bhīṣmadeva went there, and he defeated everybody on behalf of his brother Vichitravirya. Interesting. I'm not exactly sure why Vichitravirya didn't go himself, but anyways, Bhīṣmadeva went there. And he brought back Amba, Ambalika, and Ambika. But somehow or other, Amba, she wasn't really into the idea of Vichitravirya because she had her mind set on somebody else. So, but when she went back to that person said, Shalva, that person said, I'm not interested because Bhīṣmadeva won and he took you, and now you're kind of like spoiled in a sense, like I'm not interested in you. So, and then she went back to Vichitravirya, and then he wasn't interested either. And then she went to Bhīṣmadeva. And Bhīṣmadeva, she wanted to marry Bhīṣmadeva. That's also, I guess, a historical problem. Sometimes, recently, some sannyasis were telling me that, I mean, they're sannyasis. I mean, some of them are also quite old, but like physically. But some sannyasis are telling me that some women, a number of times different, approach them for marriage. Anyways, this is apparently it's a historical problem. Even Bhīṣmadeva, who everyone known to be a brahmachari, this Amba came and asked as well. So, anyways, but Bhīṣmadeva, he was not. He said, "I'm a brahmachari. I've taken this vow. I can't do that." So Amba, she became very angry. Said she performed all types of penances and austerities in the forest and so on. And she actually, it's like this whole thing where she came back as a man, and she participated in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And she was actually the human shield of Arjuna, which Arjuna defeated Bhīṣma at one particular point. So in this way, she was getting her revenge. So, but then you have Ambalika and you have Ambika. And as we'll hear in the next few verses, because of the principle of the dynasty continuing and so on, in ancient Vedic times, if this happened, Chitrangada, the first son, Vichitravirya, the second son, died, and there was no one to take the role, no sons, then Bhīṣmadeva, as the brother, would be the one to create sons, even though that they were his sister-in-law. Whatever, that was the system, which we'll hear about in the next few verses. But Bhīṣmadeva, he was a brahmachari. I mean, he's taken a vow. You can't do that. I mean, there's no way. This is not possible. So Satyavati, she was left there with her daughter-in-laws, Ambika and Ambalika, and she's like, what are we going to do here? My son's died. The dynasty needs to continue. And so what she did is she called her, if you want to say like secret son, and that was Vyasadeva. And she called him to be with Ambika and Ambalika to continue the dynasty. So then what happened? Go over on this. So then Vyasadeva, because he was out there in the forest performing so many austerities and so on, I mean, he was looking very, very intense. I mean, his hair was all grown out with dreadlocks, and it says his skin was all rough and, you know, with dirt and from the forest and everything. So he's looking like some people would think of a typical kind of forest dweller. Of course, he was also effulgent and so on, but not someone that a woman would be naturally attracted to marry. So he came there, and before he had union with Ambika, and she was terrified. She was scared because of his external appearance. So she closed her eyes out of fear. And from that type of consciousness came the birth of Dhritarashtra, who was blind. And then Ambalika, at the time, she was also in fear, but she became pale. She became pale. Like if you become really scared, your face became really white. She became pale, and Pandu was born, which means like he was very light skinned. And then he was also there with the maidservant, Vyasadeva, which Vidura took his birth. So in this way, Dhritarashtra and Pandu and Vidura came, and then we have the whole history of them, and then leading up to the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Leading up to, Krishna's appearance and the battlefield of Kurukshetra and so on, the war. So when we think about Bhīṣmadeva's vow, it's something that is very intense and should not be taken lightly. But we could also think about it in relation to our vows. Any devotee who's been around for a while and who is serious in Krishna consciousness, they take vows. An initiation, for example. And in relation to our vows, we have to be serious in keeping them. Chanting 16 rounds, following the principles, and so on. I was at which we'll wrap up in just 1 minute. I was at a event with Tukaram Prabhu, our beloved temple president of Laguna Beach Temple, and at his Saturday gathering up there in Laguna Beach. And Tukaram Prabhu likes to challenge people, call them out, which in many ways is good. It's an intellectual challenge. But he called some devotees out and he said, "What about your vows that you took at initiation?" Said that a devotee rather die than give up their vows. Are you like that? Raise your hand if you're like that. Some devotees raised their hand, but some didn't raise their hand. And the ones who didn't raise their hand is, "I'm telling your spiritual master," something like that. But when we think about that idea, would we rather die or give up our vows? Unfortunately, it's been the case sometimes that devotees feel they can't keep their vows and actually commit suicide. I'm not sure how many cases there were, but there were some cases. Harikesh had a disciple like that, apparently. And that was very hard for him to process. So we don't advise people to do that if you can't keep your vows, commit suicide. I mean, of course, you also have the story of Chota Haridas. Anyways, but when we look at this, how do we see this? Are we like that we rather die than give up our vows? Now, we could see it in different ways. By mistake, by accident, by weakness, people may break some promise or some vow. That happens. But when we talk about, one way to see it, but when we talk about giving up, it means that we've made we have literally just given up, like trying. Like, I'm not going to try to chant my 16 rounds, and I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to follow the principles, or I'm not even going to try. It's like a renouncing of the idea. And in that way, from this particular point of view, a devotee should rather die than give up their vows. Okay, so I'll stop there. Does anybody have any question? Yes. Yes.
As Maharaj said on that happy note, but it was just reminding me, Hari Sari Prabhu, he was serving Srila Prabhupada when the apparent confirmation that his disciple Vishnujan Maharaj had given up his body, and there was, at least it was believed that maybe he had trouble keeping a vow, and he felt so bad that he gave up his body, right? And of course, there's a whole history there of him being on a walk, and the Haridas, Junior Haridas thing was mentioned, but then he didn't hear where Prabhupada said, but you can't really expect that, now. But anyway, I found it very interesting that when the final confirmation came to Srila Prabhupada's comment, according to Hari Sari Prabhu, was, what can I do if he doesn't want to go on serving, right? So, which seemed to indicate that the devotional service is more important than the ashram, or even than the vow.
Yes.
Like that, there was another instance when another senior sannyasi had written Prabhupada and say, I can't go on, I'm going to give up my vow. And Prabhupada said, yes, but stay as grihasta, don't go away, right? Because it's the service that will really purify us even more than the ashram situation.
Yeah, amazingly enough, there was quite a number of sannyasis who gave up their vows in Prabhupada's presence. I mean, I say amazingly enough because, in a sense, from one particular point of view, we can see how, from that pressure of being in Prabhupada's presence, you may think that they're able to continue. But then after Prabhupada leaves, it's more understandable in a sense how they could give it up. But yeah, a lot of them gave it up in his presence. Just see how strong the illusion is. Even in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presence, we have, what's his name? That Brahmin who went traveling with him, Krishna Das, and he became attracted and bewildered by the Bhattaharis, right? Sorry, Bhattataris. Okay. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself had to personally go and rescue them. And there's a verse like that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that how merciful is the master who, when their servant falls into illusion, goes there and grabs them forcibly by the hair and drags them out of that illusion. But Prabhupada comments on one purport in that section that the illusory energy of Krishna is so strong that if a devotee is not determined enough, then there's no, even in the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they'll fall into illusion. So that it shows the value and the necessity of determination in Krishna consciousness. We should cultivate that determination. So, yeah, I was speaking with one devotee who's anyways, we won't go into that. But any other question or comment? Maybe after class. Okay. Anybody online?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the class. I have a question about like Parashar Muni. I have two questions. One is Parashar Muni and then Shantanu, Maharaj Shantanu. They both were like attracted toward Satyavati, I mean the fisherman's daughter. So my question is, even though Parashar, I understand that Shantanu Maharaj, because he was a king, so he was in the kingdom, back then they could have more wives and it's allowed. But how about like Parashar Muni? He was Muni, right? And then even that time, I mean, like you said, lust is very hard and people fall down, and I was thinking even Parashar Muni did that, and then so I was just thinking in that term, if you want to talk about it a little bit more. Another question is, you mentioned that Parashar Muni, sorry.
Can we comment on that one first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Parashar Muni, there's that principle that we judge something by the result. So, well, first of all, does anybody have any comment on that? Because it's a common thing that comes up. Parashar Muni being attracted to Satyavati, the daughter of a fisherman. I mean, he was on a boat. I mean, that's what was happening. She was the person on the boat, and then he was on the boat. He became attracted like then and there. It wasn't like some buildup of attraction or something. It was like then and there. No. And then became attraction, and they joined together. Then they had Vyasadeva. Said Vyasadeva, he came out, and then he immediately grew, and then became Srila Vyasadeva, something like Shukadeva Goswami. But it's a common thing that comes up. How is it that this Muni became attracted? What's the deal here? Does anybody have any comments on that? Because it's a common thing that comes up that people have a hard time understanding, and they think maybe even be kind of strange.
Why do they think it's strange? I'm surprised people find it surprising.
Well, can you think?
He's along with a pretty young lady. Then.
Well, here, you want to talk into the mic?
I'm just not sure why it's surprising.
What is it?
I'm not really sure why it's surprising. That's all.
Well, can you think of reasons why people would think it's surprising?
Is Parashar Muni known for being alone with pretty young women at other cases and never becoming enamored or charmed at all? Is that why? And then all of a sudden here he is, and so, well, why here and not elsewhere? Because it seems like the standard perspective you get is that a man of any advancement and detachment is still always in danger of becoming attached and wanting to enjoy a woman, especially a pretty young woman. So there's always a danger there for everybody. So
yeah,
and then even with this, I mean, I know there's backstory with Sarabhara Muni and so on, but
I think people would. I mean, it seems that people are of the thought that, okay, that's understandable, that there's danger and so on. But if he's a powerful Muni, or like a Goswami or Muni, then he should be, people think he should be able to restrain that.
I guess one thing is Munis are all of different levels. Like we have atheistic Munis, we have devotion, we have Shaiva Munis, we have actual like Bhakti Munis and so on. So we have all sorts of different Munis. We even have just like straight up materialistic Munis who are just really good at what they do and very intelligent.
That's true.
Charvaka Muni. And you have like Chavana Muni who he's very powerful and so on, but still then he also meets, what was her name again? And then he becomes enamored by her. That was whatever that was.
Not sure.
Who was that? What was her name? Sukanya, yeah.
Yeah, there is a number of Munis who have that.
Sarabhara Muni, I mean, I was saying there's the backstory, but still, yeah, he's just, he's
Actually
not
just
thinking of sex.
read one as well.
He's very advanced in detachment, but still, then, yeah, seeing those fish having sex, and he's thinking, and then he thinks of sex, and then he's thinking of sex, and again, maybe that one doesn't work because of the backstory, though. But but still, yeah, I guess the thing would be like if let's say if a sannyasi falls into a sexual relationship, people are surprised because you'd think that the person was at a certain level of detachment and yeah, just not interested, but then they fall into it. And so in one sense, yeah, I can see how something like, wow, I really didn't expect that from that person. So for Paraśurāma Muni also. But from another perspective, seems the direction that's given is that anyone, even of any age, like old age, like there's never, you can never really expect them to be free from danger.
Yes.
Yeah. From that
Okay.
danger.
I think Vaikuntha Prabhu had something. Yeah, and I don't personally know much about Paraśurāma Muni. I know that particular case. And then I know he has that verse, right? Aishvaryasya samagrasya. But I don't know much about his back history, this and that. But you have something?
Just a quick one, but we just had that verse. I think it might have been King Yayati, but it was in that section. One should not sit on the same seat, even with one's mother, sister, or daughter, because the senses and mind are so impetuous that they can drag away the mind, even of a person of discrimination who's endeavoring to control them. So, that general advice is there. And I don't think it was a cruise ship. I mean, those little boats that you cross the rivers in India, it might have just been the two of them on a very small boat, so it's almost like sitting on the same seat,
Now, do we accept it as a divine arrangement? Because after all, it's Vyasadeva who was born. Do we accept it as a divine arrangement based on Vyasadeva's appearance and based on the consciousness of such a personality appearing? I mean, because he's not not an ordinary personality, obviously. Do we accept that? Does anybody have any ideas about that? Like, was it a mistake that turned good, or was it an arrangement? It was an arrangement of Krishna. Anyone have any?
I mean, what isn't an arrangement of Krishna? He's got his hand in everything, doesn't he? Isn't that our philosophy?
Well,
not a blade of grass moves with that.
Well, in terms of mistakes, like Prabhupada, for example, there was his disciple in Los Angeles. She brought out the Charnamrita. She was the one who made it. And then Prabhupada took the Charnamrita and there was salt, and Prabhupada was very angry. And then she said something like, Krishna kind of, he's in the heart, so... But then Prabhupada was very angry about that and so on. So, of course, the saying is there, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Supreme. We also have our desires. So, yeah.
You're making mistakes, though.
Yeah, you can make mistakes. So does anybody have any thoughts about that?
Well, I was just saying, if someone wants to hear on the mic, just that Krishna sanctions everything doesn't mean that he doesn't sanction mistakes. So that if someone goes and commits a very nasty murder, it's sanctioned by Krishna, but not approved by Krishna, not arranged by Krishna. It wasn't Krishna's desire exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't like something Krishna wanted to get the plot moving, but sanctioned by Krishna is different from that.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that when you're saying, well, could we accept it? Does anyone have an argument for it being arranged by Krishna? I was thinking that maybe someone could just say that it's almost irrelevant, in that it's not totally shocking regardless whether it was arranged by Krishna. Definitely nothing surprising because anything can be arranged by Krishna, like Parikshit, doing something with the snake and so on. But even if you took a case like this outside of Vyasadeva, still. Bhagavatam gives these examples where I guess it's kind of it's something like the Brihaspati example recently where just makes, you really wouldn't expect it from that person. But then from one perspective, by studying Shastra's perspective on sexual attachment, kind of nothing really shocks you anymore. It kind of shocks you because you wouldn't, you'd think, I'm not sure. I'm not wording it properly. Something about like you don't expect it, but then also not totally shocking when it happens to anybody because it's just like that material disease.
Yeah. I mean, there's different ways to look at it. I mean, Paraśurāma Muni, if someone was to see it as a mistake, it's not that he is therefore doomed or something. There's that. A mistake might happen, but then you also have it being irrelevant in this, or another point could be that one's parents, it doesn't really matter in a sense. One can become, anyways, I don't think that really makes sense. So.
Maybe the Brahma going after his own daughter is an example of something where it's not Krishna's arrangement to get the plot moving or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But it really is a great testament to how that the perverted material, perverted desire, how strong it is, and how it just everyone is in danger of it, even the most qualified people.
Yeah, like you said, we do have cases of that with Maharaj Parikshit being cursed, right, by the son of a Brahmin. He became angry, but that was an arrangement of Krishna that Prabhupada says clearly. So, okay. Any other comments about that? Yes, Maharaj. And then we'll end.
One thing that I take away from this is that we can learn a lesson from these apparent slips without necessarily harshly judging the other person. Mm-hmm. That we should, we can take it internally, but not deal so harshly with the other person.
Yeah.
The stories of Srila Prabhupada's dealing with sannyasis who gave up that ashram are legion, and they're all compassionate.
Yes.
There's a story of Rishi Kumar who made Prabhupada cry when he took sannyas. I heard this back then.
Oh my God.
From our temple president, Gaurasundar. I think he was 20 when he took sannyas. And Prabhupada was so moved that he was actually moved to tears at his sannyas initiation. I don't have a transcript or anything, but he gave up that ashram. He gave up his spiritual practice altogether, including even the rules that many of us just kind of take for granted. We're probably already following before we met the devotees. He was breaking all the rules. And he accidentally encountered Srila Prabhupada on the sidewalk, the devotees receiving Srila Prabhupada on the sidewalk in New York City. Prabhupada saw him and he said, "Oh, so Rishi Kumar, you will cook for me?"
Nice.
Anyway, that's a story I've heard. It may be apocryphal.
I was also thinking that in chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna is saying that this is impossible for me, that I can't pull this off, and Srila Prabhupada draws out the point that if someone as qualified as Arjuna can't pull this off, then what to speak of other people? And so that's been one thing that strikes me whenever these things occur in Bhagavatam. And in fact, you brought it up to me one time. I forgot we were talking about something. You brought up Paraśurāma Muni also in this context, and some others that.
I was bringing it up because someone brought it up to me.
Yeah. You if you look at this. So the at least the point that if people as qualified as certain munis and so on, if they are just I'm going to keep using the same word. If even they are in danger of making huge mistakes based on this perverted desire, then what to speak of Kali Yugites who grew up with no good samskaras, all bad samskaras, like nasty association, nasty experiences and so on. Then no one none of us should feel safe from none of us should feel safe from making a big mistake when it comes to interaction with women.
Yeah, and
again, not to make some point that therefore you have to then deal with that. But
there was one devotee in Mayapur. But he gave class. Rajendranath Prabhu would comment sometimes about him. He would kind of outline the difficulties of Krishna consciousness and everything, and he'd kind of end his class like, "So good luck." So, that being said, there are many, the whole 9th canto, like we've been mentioning a number of times, different devotees, myself included, that it's full of these different cautionary accounts. And therefore, yeah, devotees should be careful. Prabhupada commenting on the pastime of Shiva and Mohini Murti makes that point as well, or comment on Lord Brahma and so on. So devotees should be very careful in their practice of Krishna consciousness and take shelter of the processes of Bhakti Yoga. Like we have the 5 most potent forms of devotional service that we're doing every morning here. Take shelter of Gaura Nitai and, yeah, fully depend on their mercy, like a helpless child. And then there's hope for, yeah, success. So, yeah. But anyways, thank you all very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.